Welcome into this Thursday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Kyle, how'd you ring in the new league year? Happened yesterday. Oh no, we lost them.
You know what? The funny thing about the new league, you can hear me, right? I'm here because I can see
you're
you.
good.
You
You're
look
back.
great. You sound great. This thing is crazy because I thought we were already in free agency. We were never really in free agency. It was the legal NFL tampering period. And I'm getting an education more and more every year as to how expansive this process of putting together teams, figuring out dollar amounts, trying to figure out how the hell the New Orleans Saints even have money to be able to sign players, let alone guys like Chase Young. I got a lot of questions about this whole thing, but that's why I got you on the other end. I'm looking forward to getting into this thing with you.
So it is super complex, right? I mean, there's a lot of variables to weigh every offseason, and we're going to talk about some of them. We're going to talk about compensatory picks today as well because they're announced. And it's something that I think when you have that many variables, it definitely leads to a big spread in the talent at the GM position that I think as media, we often don't evaluate properly. So we go on a little bit of a segue here.
Yeah, we don't power rank GMs. It's not like we're out here power ranking GMs.
Yes, and then a lot of people don't dig into the minutia, right? A lot of people don't. They just see wins, losses at the end of the day, but I think there's a lot more that goes into that, a win and a loss. And a lot of times you can build an awesome roster and not win games because, well, you don't have the quarterback, you don't have certain positions in place. So that's why I always enjoy this time of the year, enjoy seeing what different teams' approaches are, and then obviously seeing how these guys fare at the end of the day. So let's get into some of the free agent signings. We're going to grade some of the ones not as exciting here. I'm looking of the top 100 free agents.
There's some exciting ones on here. They're not blockbusters.
Only 5 have been signed. You're correct in that they are not blockbusters. None of these were big money deals since the very basically the first day of free agency or second day. And since that's been kind of tame, but we'll start off with this one because it's interesting. Joey Bosa goes to the Buffalo Bills. 1 year, $12.5 million deal. The Bills going on their sort of couple-year crusade here of just trying to get the oldest pass rushers imaginable through free agency.
And I mean, they go from one of the most gifted guys on the planet in terms of Von Miller, and he was really on the 18th hole of his Sunday round with this group, and we were expecting him to show up huge in a huge way in the playoffs, and unfortunately it's just not the same Von Miller that we remember from Super Bowl lore and years have passed. And let's just hope for the Buffalo Bills' sake, well, first and foremost, they had to address this issue because there has been no pass rush outside of the guys on the inside of that defensive front who have been awesome. But it would be nice for this Buffalo Bills team to have some more teeth on the edge of that defense. Let's hope Joey Bosa can stay healthy. I'm going to give it a B or B minus because it had to get done. But as you said, let's just continue to sign the oldest people in the NFL, at least in terms of football years, football played. And Joey Bosa, it's a prove-it year. If it goes well, it'll be great for everybody. But obviously, you're taking a big swing on a guy who has struggled to stay on the field as of late.
Yeah, it's been kind of the story of Joey Bosa's entire career, right? It's just injuries. I mean, I think he started off his career, right, and was hurt like the first 4 games of his rookie season. And then since then, it's been a common theme. Over the past 3 seasons, never played more than 503 snaps in a single season. So it's just been difficult to keep this guy healthy. But when healthy, obviously he's a great pass rusher. And I like this from the perspective that I don't think he fit in what the Chargers wanted to do defensively. They were they did not let him pin his ears back and go. But Joey Bosa is at his best when he can just get upfield and attack. And he's going to feel like on that Buffalo Bills defensive line, he's back at Ohio State with what they were doing way back when. So it's crazy to think he's actually not even 30 years old yet. He'll be 30 years old by the time the season rolls around, but he's been in the league forever, it seems like, since the 2016 draft. And still maybe does have some tread on the tires, depending on if he can stay healthy or not.
I have a quick little way to finish this. I was a guy who dealt with a ton of injuries, some bad breaks. Guys would land on you around the pile, unlucky stuff. And people start to think you're made of glass when, in fact, the roll of the dice just hasn't gone your way a couple of these times. We've seen a lot of players get through the entirety of their career without having one of those ill-advised friendly fire type situations happen. For Joey Bosa, he's still young enough to be able to go out there and prove to people that maybe he's just had a couple bad breaks. And I'm rooting for him because I've been that guy before. And I dealt with injuries from early on. So I hope that Joey Bosa can make the most of it, because that would make that Bills team that much more fun to watch. And when the Bills are winning and at the precipice of being in the Super Bowl every year, that's when our league is the best.
Yeah. And let's get real. That's a big discount for what he could be for you. $12.5 million. If that guy had been healthy, when he is healthy, he is a mid 20 to high $20 million pass rusher, not a $12.5 million a year pass rusher. The other one of note here that was a cut going to a different team, Evan Ingram, tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, goes to the Denver Broncos, 2 years, $23 million deal. Obviously, just any weapons for this Broncos team, a must. To me, this is piece one of probably 2+ pieces that you want to add to this receiving core. Outside of Cortland Sutton last year, and Devon Villay, cool addition. You need a true number 2 there. I think this is a team that's firmly going to be in play for the draft, but this at least gives you an athletic tight end that you can feature in the passing game.
Yeah, and you know what? People are going to point to some of those injury concerns. Obviously, a couple of years ago, he had 1,000 yards, and he was prolific in their offense. And then last year, he dealt with the shoulder, which is that labrum. But the great thing for a guy like Evan Ingram, you don't run on your labrum. The thing that concerns me is that hamstring he dealt with, because you're getting up in age now. You're around 30, 31 years old by my math, and those hamstrings don't tend to get better as you get older. So for a guy who can be such a dynamic receiving threat and a big-time missing piece for this Broncos offense, I'm going to be a little bit cognizant of the fact that he is how old he is. And with that much running, with that little oxygen in Denver, I would imagine it's tough to be able to get over some of those soft tissue injuries. And I hate to get a little pseudoscience with you, but that's just how the world works there, Mike.
I love it. I love getting into the altitude takes. I'm here for that.
I'm going sea level if I'm Evan Ingram. If I'm 30 and
all right, let's get to the top 100 guys that have come off the board of late. We have Justin Reid. This one stopped me in my tracks when I saw it. Did a double take. I had to check it again. Signs with none other than the New Orleans Saints for a 3-year, $31.5 million deal. This, to me, is the missing piece to a championship team. I don't know what you think, but this pushes them over the edge, right? This is it. The Saints are your front runners in the NFC now.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, they still sell.
I'm going to give you the other side of it.
Sorry.
Because if I'm the Saints and I'm aware of the cap hell that we are in, and you've done a great job of illustrating that throughout the course of the season, I want to do my best to, when I'm building this new New Orleans Saints program from the ground up, I want to have big-time leaders in that building. Not just leaders in terms of years played or football intelligence or toughness on the field. Guys who have been to the top of the mountain time and time again. Justin Reid's experience in Kansas City was priceless, in my opinion. And if I'm a new coach, if I'm a head coach, and I'm not on that side of the ball, I'm thinking about our guy in New Orleans. He's an offensive guy. I want a coach playing for our defense because I can't be in that room all the time. And with a guy like Justin Reid, you have the benefit of the doubt there.
Well, they're just ripping up all the guys who are in that mold. Tyrann Mathieu, they did it before. He was that guy for the Chiefs at one point in time. Now Justin Reid was the guy for the Chiefs at one point in time. So just basically taking their sloppy seconds to put it.
Not a bad sloppy seconds.
But yeah, I do think, I think I'm hitting the Saints a little too hard. They aren't bad. This is not a bad roster. The problem is this is a very thin roster. And the problem is they're never giving themselves a buffer. They're never giving themselves a buffer to really hit reset on this thing. They're pushing it to the edge every single year, every single time. And it's just only making the true ability to hard reset this roster more difficult. And now they're making themselves even more difficult to find a quarterback. I thought this was the year to trade Derek Carr, really have it suck. And then everyone loves next year's quarterback class. Arch Manning could be sitting there for you at number 1 overall, like the prophecy foretold, grandson of your, one of your franchise legends. But alas, not the Mickey Loomis way. He's going to do this. If he didn't do it this year, Saints fans, he's never going to do it. There's no point in the Mickey Loomis era where he's going to say, that's it. We have to hit reset. This is it. No, if he's going to keep pushing it to the edge of this offseason, you can expect this to be the way every offseason until, they have absurd cap hit after absurd cap hit of guys they're just lucky. I'll just say that guys like Cameron Jordan, guys like Demario Davis have stayed, guys like Alvin Kamara have stayed effective past what's usually the shelf life of effective players.
Because it would look even worse. It would look even worse for those guys down there. Hey, you know what looks terrible? That team up north right now, the Green Bay Packers, they are making all kind of head-scratching decisions. The next player on our list,
where did that one come from?
None other than Josh Myers going to the Jets. What do you think about this situation, weighing into the fact that they just brought Aaron Banks in for $1 quadrillion this past couple days?
Yeah, so Josh Myers goes to the Jets for not a quadrillion, for $3.5 million. And for as much as I've lamented Josh Myers over the course of his career, 4 years as a starter with the Green Bay Packers, he is still he's one of the 32 best centers in the NFL, I'll say. He is a starting center in the league. Now, obviously, you'd want to do better. And from the Packers' perspective, they spent an arm and a leg on Aaron Banks to reshuffle this offensive line and try to do better. But, man, that's the kind of deal you want to sign in free agency. Because now, and he's not going to start for the Jets, right? They got Joe Tippmann there at the center position. He's kind of your 3-position backup, hopefully, on the interior. But he's a backup that, your center goes down, you're fine. And guess what? Centers go down a lot. It's offensive linemen go down a lot. It's
a lot of bodies in there,
as you mentioned, and it's not their fault. They just get rolled up, guys. Bodies get tossed on you in the interior, and this is a great signing. So if you're looking at the Jets and what they've done so far, they've kind of hitched their wagon to Justin Fields to reset things, but I like how they've built it up around it. And I think things are going in a different direction for them. We'll see obviously how the draft fares, but this is a great signing in my opinion. If the guy who's played that much football, 3,719 snaps in his career, you love to add guys like that on really, really cheap deals like this. All right,
we got another one here. We got another deal coming up here.
Another sort of budget signing that I think could pay off big dividends. It's Kevin Zeitler to the Tennessee Titans.
The exception to the age rule.
Yeah, this guy at 35 years old has not slowed down one bit. Just turned 35, so he will be 35 this upcoming season. But as much as I don't agree with every way that the Titans tried to rebuild this offensive line over the past 2 seasons, they have rebuilt it. This is a much improved offensive line. Now, what it's going to look like. So left tackle is going to be Dan Moore Jr., the guy you just signed from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Left guard, Peter Skoronski. Center, Lloyd Cushenberry, who we gave that big money deal to last year. Right guard, Kevin Zeitler. Right tackle, J.C. Latham. And then you have guys like Nicholas Petit-Frere, Dylan Radins, Jalen Duncan, who have started for you, who are young on rookie deals. They're now backups, right? Actually, I guess Dylan Radins isn't a backup.
Petit-Frere was 10-sack guy. He was a 10-sack guy. So they want him to be rotational.
You want those guys to be rotational players at this point in time. So the Tennessee Titans, it's at least a situation where if it's Will Levis, if it's Cam Ward, it's survivable, right?
You got some guys back there.
It's not what you saw last year.
And as far as Kevin Zeitler goes, Mike, you'd have to back me up or prove me wrong on this. But at 35 years old, the guy is still getting it done at the offensive line. And for the Tennessee Titans, it's like Big Cat, Barstool Big Cat. He went on this historic run this month in gambling, and he got to like 16-0. And I kind of feel like if you're tailing big cat at the 16-0, like tail him on the 17th game, it feels like signing a 35-year-old Kevin Zeitler because of the fact that he's been so good for so long. But you're like, is this the year where it doesn't work out? Because, these things tend to not work out eventually. Like even Jason Peters, one of the freakiest guys, had to put his helmet away this past year. For Kevin Zeitler, what is the expiration date? Because they're going to be counting on him to play some good football, particularly if they have a young guy at quarterback.
Here's the thing. He hasn't suffered an injury. That's the biggest thing at that age, in my opinion, it's not really a steady decline. It is a one small thing can basically stop. Like you just don't recover at 35 the way you did at 25.
No.
And so he has now for 5 straight seasons played at least 1,000 snaps.
Yeah.
The last time he missed more than a couple games in a season was 2014. That's the guys you bet on at that age to, remember like Andrew Whitworth at that age, like he was a guy who just never missed snaps. And then all of a sudden, like, he plays to 40. Guy. So if a guy has been consistently not getting hurt and not missing serious time, they just don't have the same wear on their bodies in terms of like worrying about being able to recover. So those are the guys you take a chance on.
5 straight seasons at 29 plus of playing 1,000 snaps a year, that they should give him a little pin that he wears on every piece of clothing.
We should be studying this guy's genetics, dude. What's he got?
Yeah.
What's the secret sauce in there?
Give me some of what he's got.
Clone him into every offensive lineman because that's the biggest thing, right? And you obviously know firsthand is that just injuries. Sometimes you're just never the same after it.
They say bullets don't have names on them. It's the same thing with flying bodies on the football field. They don't have names on them either, and they just land on anybody.
Well, sometimes they do, and it's Chris Jones, and it's unfortunate.
Or it's a whole cast of characters. But this isn't therapy, so I'm not going to get into the names, okay? But things happen, and some of them are preventable, some are not.
But with Zeitler, I mean, he had 3 years with the Ravens after people thought, it was probably done with the Giants. 3 great years, outplays his contract. 1 year with the Lions, outplays his contract. There's a good chance he outplays his contract for the Tennessee Titans. So I think from that perspective, love this signing. But I will say, I remember when the Packers signed Jeff Saturday. I was hyped. I was like a Hall of Fame center, Jeff Saturday. They had to bench him by like week 8. It was just over. Yeah. Sometimes at that age, it goes quickly. All right, next one up, number 44 in this list. DeMarcus Lawrence goes to the Seattle Seahawks for a 3-year, $42 million deal. Now, Lawrence has been oft injured the past few years. Obviously, this past year only played 167 snaps. 2022 was the last time he really played a full complement of snaps in a season. He is going to be 33 years old here very shortly. This one, I don't know. This one I'm a little worried about because he is coming off a big injury. He is up there in age. He is not necessarily a guy who relied on athleticism, but at that point in time, it's like, I don't know if I'm committing 3 years to a guy like that, especially when I have a pretty strong core there already in place along this defensive line and guys like Boye Mafe, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, Derek Hall.
What a crew.
It's a good defensive line. Chene Owusu. This one, I know that Mike McDonald loves his rotation on the defensive line. That's his MO, is that he wants everyone fresh, snap after snap after snap.
He wants no play in, play out. He wants speed.
So we'll see. But this one, if I were them, I would have rather had like the Joey Bosa 1 year 12, right? This seems like we'll see what the guaranteed is and how much they're on the hook for if it's like truly ends up being a 1 year sort of deal. But this one's a little bit risky in my opinion.
So I was talking about Evan Engram's destination in Denver and how it could prove to be not very good for the hamstring because of the low oxygen levels. Well, one thing you got to keep in mind, these guys that play in these warm weather cities like Dallas, you get out to go get in your car in the morning and it's 105 degrees in the summer and probably dips into the 50s and 40s in the winter. You go up to Seattle, man. You go up to Seattle and you play some football and you just living conditions throughout the course of the football season. You're vitamin D deficient. You don't see the sun for months. You're 32. He's 32, about to be 33. You've dealt with injuries since 2022 consistently. That's a tough, it's a tough ask for a guy to go up there. But as you said, there's already really good players in that defensive line room, which takes the pressure off of Tank Lawrence a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's 3 years, $42 million. That is a lot of pressure. That comes with pressure. And when you sign for a big deal like that, you got to come ready to play. So I hope for Tank Lawrence that he'll be great, because he's been so much fun to watch when he is right. But man, oh man, to your point, it's a lofty number. They could have saved $32 million. They could have saved $30 million and brought in Joey Bosa.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it ends up going for that one. But that one's just a big, big question mark, in my opinion. Last of the top 100 ones, and then maybe we'll get to a couple outside of the top 100 that intrigue us. Nuke Hopkins goes to the Ravens, 1 year, $6 million deal. This one, if you watch him at all last season, should not be surprising. It was kind of, the gas tank is empty in terms of his ability to get open. Obviously, he's going to be able to catch a football at an elite level until he's 100 years old. The guy has some of the best hands I've ever seen, and he's reliable. He is now, I think, for this offense, you have two guys that can get open at will. You have probably two of the best separators. You're probably the best a top three separating duo in the NFL in Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. This is now your big slot.
Yep.
Run the spot routes over the middle of the football field. Basically, Lamar's exceptional at those throws, at finding the holes in zones. He is your almost Travis Kelce in this offense when you do go three wide. I don't think it's really anything more than that I'm expecting.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I mean, they're going to put him somewhere close to the tight end, somewhere close to the line of scrimmage. They're going to have him beat up man coverage. If anybody, for whatever reason, tries to press, he can get inside. And to your point, he's a great body. He's a great guy with his body control, and he catches with his hands out away from the defenders and himself. But also to your point, not separating right now. So I do see him as being a big part of that RPO action in the middle of the field where the ball's out quick and it's on you fast, because you need somebody with those reliable hands like DeAndre Hopkins.
All right. Some non-top 100 signings. You tell me which one is most intriguing to you. Mac Jones to the 49ers, 2 years, $7 million. Dude, this one is awesome. This one is incredible because
he loved him.
Remember the storylines pre-draft. Everyone thought they trade up number 3 overall, draft Mac Jones. And
but they got Trey Lance.
Some insider still maintains that was I think it might be Florio. I can't allegedly. I can't like put hard fast to it, but someone still maintains that they basically got bullied into drafting Trey Lance after they traded up by the mass media, which to me is one of the craziest takes I've ever heard. But everyone said they love Mac Jones, and then they end up obviously drafting Trey Lance. And now once he hits free agency, first time he's actually available, he goes to the 49ers. I love it from their perspective. Quarterback rehab, you saw what they did to Darnold. I think if there's any scheme where Mac Jones could actually be successful, it is this one. And I think this gives them now almost a test case with Brock Purdy. And they get to watch them back-to-back in practice every day and be like, how much better is Brock Purdy than Mac Jones? How much better is he operating this offense? Is it $50 million better? Or can we go out and sign guys like Mac Jones for 2 years, $7 million and still maintain this high level of play? Because that's the debate they're going to have all this upcoming season. Because I do not expect them to extend them before this year.
If you like somebody, you tend to like them forever. And for a guy like Kyle Shanahan, who is so gifted at what he does and obviously maximizes the output of a guy like Brock Purdy, if he really loved Mac Jones coming out, you're going to only be looking at a better version of what you were in love with coming out of college, because he's been in the National Football League. I don't care if he hasn't been lighting the world on fire. Shanahan can pick up the dribble with him. And to your point, Brock Purdy, there looms a very expensive decision to be made in San Francisco. If they can find a way to get Mac Jones to play that style of point guard that Kyle Shanahan's looking for, it could spell Hollywood drama out there in San Francisco. And it'll be a lot of fun to watch, because we've all got our eyes on that quarterback spot in San Francisco. And everybody has put guys from Aaron Rodgers to Mac Jones to Brock Purdy, and you can name a dozen guys who have been like, could play with Kyle Shanahan. Well, he got his guy, Mac Jones.
I'm very excited to see how it turns out. Next one up, Malik Collins to the Browns, 2 years, $20 million. I can't believe this didn't make Pete Prisco's top 100. Malik Collins, whatever you want to say about him, he can rush the passer for an interior guy. So to get that for 2 years, 20, now he's not an every down defensive tackle whatsoever. But in your third down package, if your third down package now is some combination of Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter, and Malik Collins, Shelby Harris, you're in luck here. That's a good Mike Hall Jr. You can work with that. I think
that's a classic Jim Schwartz desire.
Yes. That is going to be a scary defensive front. So I love that signing for the Cleveland Browns. Rico Dowdle of the Panthers, 1 year, $6.25 million. And then MVS to the Seahawks, 1 year, $5.5 million. Those probably there to be backups, role player type of deals. All right, we're going to get to a couple trades. We're going to get to some smaller signings, and we're going to get to the best of the rest in the free agency class right after this.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1. From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
I read a couple trades over the past few days. Didn't have the same panache as the DK Metcalf move, but one is a former first rounder. Bills traded Kaiir Elam, the guy who they drafted right after Trent McDuffie, to the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th and a future 7th. The Cowboys continue to love trading for busts, top 50 bust players. They did it last year with Jonathan Mingo. Doing it again with Kaiir Elam. I do think this scheme is so much better for what he does. They are going to play a lot more press man, a lot more press cover 3 than he ever did in Buffalo. That was who he was at Florida. So hopefully from that perspective can rehab him. But man, if you watch the playoff game where he had to be forced to play against the Chiefs, it wasn't good. That guy did look completely unconfident. So to refer to the famous tweet, if you're referred to as a former first rounder, you know that they are turbo dog shit. It's true. It's
former first rounder.
You don't get called the former first rounder this time of year if you've done anything in the NFL, unfortunately, because another former first rounder, Kenneth Murray, the Los Angeles Chargers first rounder way back when, who now signed with the Tennessee Titans last year, he was traded to the Cowboys for a late round pick swap. Basically said, yeah, we're good, Kenneth. That was fun. Go try a different team. Cowboys have the need. Kenneth Murray's the kind of guy who everyone's been intrigued by. Can they get it out of him? Can they get this next step? Because he's a freak of nature athletically. At 240 pounds, got runs low 4.5s. He's just looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, all-star team. So we'll see if it works out with Cowboys. But those two trades, not a lot, I don't think, for the Cowboys defense in what they'll be getting. All right, best of what's left. I'm going to go through position by position here. You stop me when a name sounds like we need to discuss it. And we should probably discuss the quarterbacks first. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Are we any closer?
Interesting order of operations there, by the way. You went Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers.
I know. That's not even alphabetical. It was what's on the list, though. Where are the musical chairs stopping here for these two guys, in your opinion?
Okay, so Aaron Rodgers, I looked at his earnings during the season. We were talking about this when I was pretty much eulogizing Aaron Rodgers' career and all the amazing things he's done, how much money he's made, yada, yada, yada. He has his career earnings, $380 million. So I say that to say this. He has come under, he's, self-induced flack has been a big part of the last couple of years for Aaron Rodgers. Some of it's self-induced, and a lot of it is just, haters. There's a lot of people out there who don't want to see a guy like Aaron Rodgers succeed. If Aaron Rodgers really wants to shove the middle finger in the air or wherever he wants to shove it, he would take minimum compensation to go play for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm talking like,
don't speak it into existence. Why are you going to do that?
I'm talking about take a Happy Meal and a medium Sprite and go play some football and go double birds, discount double check in Minnesota It would be awesome. Complete the Aaron or the Brett Favre arc. It would be a lot of fun. And it's not just because of the Brett Favre thing. It's because that is the team that you will have the best opportunity to go win another Super Bowl with. That is the team that you were kind of looking for with the New York Jets. Budding stars, young coach, a real identity. They have all of that in Minnesota in droves, and they only got better this offseason. I think he's kind of waiting around to see any of these final moves and make his final maths. But Pittsburgh would be a lot. I mean, with Pickens and with DK Metcalf, there's only one football. There's only one football. And my opinion is that
I still think they're as good a team.
That Steelers team is not, they can win 9 games a year, 10 games a year. But until they prove to me they can go win some playoff games, then that's all I'm going to think about, the fact that they can't. And it was the quarterback that limited the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs.
I don't think you're wrong there either.
He got him in the 1 seed and then pissed down his leg. So I know a guy who's not going to piss down his leg, and he's 41 years old, and he's got $400 million.
Yeah, I am interested. I think of sometimes in my free time, I think of questions to ask players to like get to the heart of if they really love ball. And I do think asking them, hey, if you won the lottery tomorrow and you were overnight worth $1 billion, would you take league minimum so that this team is better? I think it's just an interesting question to see what their response would be. I don't think like them saying, no, I wouldn't is necessarily wrong. But I think that's one where like you would get a good explanation of how much a guy actually loves football. So it would be interesting to see if Rodgers really wants a ring, if he really loves ball. Obviously, he did it in New York. He took a pay cut. He didn't take league min. League min would be interesting because I can't remember the last time someone really said, I am going to take no money just to go.
He's got no kids. He doesn't have, expenses outside of the beach club at which he walks and ponders his late night thoughts. That's the only expense he has. He plays a little bit of golf, but people take care of it. I'm sure he eats well. I'm sure there's a lot of those holistic food companies that reach out and just give him free stuff. He can play for free and go win a Super Bowl. It will be the ultimate FU to everybody.
Yeah, and I do think Minnesota ultimately gives him the best chance to do that. I think he's the domino that falls first, though. I think everyone's kind of like,
where's Russell going to go?
Hey, we want the Aaron domino. Like the Aaron domino determines the Russell domino. Because I think everyone's kind of in the Aaron Rodgers market first, whether it's the Giants, whether it's the Steelers, whether it's the Vikings. And then after that, they're going to say settle, but Russell Wilson's their next phone call. So I don't know. I think Russell ultimately, I think he ends up back with the Steelers. It just feels like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't think, as much as he wasn't great down the stretch, again, they had a terrible offensive line. They had one wide receiver who's crazy. They're like, what did you think he was supposed to do in that offense? Is he
actually?
Exactly. So I don't think he was that horrible. And I think if for the contract you're going to get him, that's probably the best you're going to be able to do, Pittsburgh. I truly do. So I think that's ultimately where he ends up. Running back, we have J.K. Dobbins, really the only top back on the market after now Rico Dowdle signing. Wide receiver, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. Oof. If you want a washed wide receiver to play, 30 snaps a game for you, you're in luck.
Got a couple.
If you want a guy who's like coming off a rookie deal and has been productive, your SOL, your options are Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore. Your options are both 5'9". So not a great year to be a needed wide receiver. I think everyone's turned their attention to the draft there. Tight end as well. No one really notable after the Evan Ingram signing. Offensive tackle, actually offensive line. There are some very intriguing names still on the market that I would kick the tires on. Guys who are top draft picks. Cam Robinson of obviously Jags fame, but I've finished last year with the Vikings.
Jags fame.
Jedrick Wills fame, if we can say that. He was franchise tag. Jedrick Wills, who was a top 10 pick.
Really good player when he's right.
A good start to his career. A lot of injuries since then. A lot of headaches for the Browns since then. But I think he's going to have to get a 1-year prove-it deal. And as we saw with Mekhi Becton this last year, you get a guy who's that talented and has to prove it. Sometimes you get the best version of them. And then at guard, you got Mekhi Becton. And Tevin Jenkins, who I can't believe Tevin Jenkins is still out there. I would have been happier if the Packers gave Tevin Jenkins the deal they gave Aaron Banks. I think he's the more talented player. I think he has more untapped potential.
A good player and one of these guys that has dealt with some unlucky breaks and rolls of the dice in terms of injury. Some of the stuff you have to say coming out of college, they knew he had some back issues, and his back comes and it goes, and he's in and he's out of the lineup. But when he is in the lineup, you got a real ass kicker there at Tevin Jenkins. And it's kind of similar to the Mekhi Becton situation prior to the Philadelphia Eagles. When they signed Mekhi Becton, first and foremost, they were like, well, we have tackles. And the scout was like, no, he's going to play guard. And they're like, but he plays guard, but he's going to be injured. And if you're a guard, you're probably going to be even more oft injured. Mm-hmm. Tevin Jenkins, I think, is a guy that could use a second chance. And like with the Mekhi Becton thing, you're going to be rolling the dice on the health. But at this point, he's going to have to play football somewhere. Wherever he does, probably going to get a good deal for him, and he's going to be a good player when he's on the field for you. That's all I can say about him.
All right, defensive line class. Edge, Azeez Ojulari, Dante Fowler. None of those names excite me too much. The interior, Calais Campbell, Levi Nuzurike. Calais Campbell is going to be able to play football until he's 40. The guy
it's unbelievable.
Built different.
He came out when my older brother came out.
Really?
Chris I remember is 4 years older than me. He's 39. September 1st. Be
39 this season. He was in. I went to see. I was at the Packers Cardinals wild card game, one of the best playoff games of all time. The one that ended in overtime. Aaron Rodgers fumble was like 48-42 or something, or 51-45, I think. He was in that game. I was a freshman in college, I think. He was in that game. So he's been around forever, but guy still kind of gets it done, dude. He's still playing like the run at a high level. I would sign that guy in a heartbeat. Unbelievable. And it's not going to cost you too much for a guy who's a quality interior run defender. At linebacker, CJ Mosley, former Jet, former Raven first rounder, kind of getting up there, was just released yesterday. Kaiser White, none of those guys are that intriguing to me. Corner's got some talent, though. Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr., Douglas getting up there in age. Asante Samuel has had some injuries.
Who could use that?
Up and down. I would love Rasul Douglas back on the Packers, man. Ooh. He was good there. I don't know why they traded away in the first place.
Especially if your guy, Jair Alexander, becomes a Bear. Dude, that'd be sick.
Stop. Just don't even you're putting all these
he
things
would
out.
Talk so much shit. They would have to come up with when they come up with new rules for Patrick Mahomes because he's just too good at football and people just say he cheats. They're gonna have to come up with new rules when Jair Alexander becomes a Bear because he's just gonna talk so much shit. They're gonna make him a captain every time they play the Packers.
Well, he's even if he's not a captain, he'll go out there for the coin.
That's what I'm saying. They're just gonna make him a captain.
He'll make himself a captain.
Ben Johnson is a troll. We've learned that in the last few weeks. He wants to do stuff like this.
All right. Those are your best available. Justin Simmons at safety as well. So not a lot available. I'll say if you're looking and you need a position, the one position I would want to be in need for with stuff still on the market, offensive line. There's still offensive linemen to be had. So you're in luck if that's the case. We're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to some storylines now heading out of free agency that we've seen the last couple days after this.
I feel home when I see the faces that remember my own. When I'm with my friends, I feel home.
So quarterback we haven't talked about because, well, he's technically still on a roster. Kirk Cousins. Going to be released. They say if the Falcons release him. They literally said that way back when. But it's going to be
if the Falcons release him, he'll be on a network desk. Because what we saw from him in the postseason on the desk on a network, I'm not sure if it was ours or not, but he was damn good. He's gonna take somebody's seat. I'll say that much about Kirk Cousins. He can make more money. He can make
family
really
man,
he can make really good money doing TV, is what I'll say.
Kirk Cousins, not one to turn down a bag. If you know anything about Kirk Cousins, he has always been. I wonder what his career earnings now are at this point.
I like this game, by the way.
Guess here, I got it up. Guess what his career earnings are.
$242 million.
Low. You're low.
Really? 317 million.
293 for Kirk
Okay.
Cousins. That's real deal cheddar. I actually just saw earlier Kevin Zeitler. He's going to, on that contract, be the third guard to ever go over $100 million in career earnings. So Zeitler has been hitting bags over the course of his career. But the Browns reportedly eyeing Kirk Cousins if he does get released, which feels like tampering because, again, he's on a roster. So I don't know how he can have that report. But this just backs up my theory that after the Kenny Pickett trade, that they're not going to take quarterback number 2. They are going to sign any guy who's ever played quarterback at a modicum of an okay level and just have them all compete with Deshaun Watson.
Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett.
Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. So this is just another dart throw. Obviously, Kirk Cousins has the Kevin Stefanski connection. He was his quarterback's coach at one point in time and offense coordinator at one point in time back there in Minnesota before he took the Browns job. So makes sense. Now, Kirk Cousins throwing on that Lake Erie.
You think that Achilles was tight last year in the Dome in Atlanta, buddy? Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
TBD on how that works out for him. But yeah, I mean, the Browns, beggars can't be choosers. That's your option at this point if you want a guy who's going to come cheap. But again, you're right. I think if Kirk Cousins gets cut, Kirk Cousins' contract will be less than his contract would be at Fox, at CBS, at ESPN on a desk. So we'll see if he ends up hanging up if he does get cut. The other one here, the Eagles are the only team in the NFL to have not signed a free agent so far. Are we surprised?
No. I mean, they've gotten rid of some pieces, obviously, and they've got a lot of young guys on that roster who are going to be worthy of big-time contracts coming up. I think they're doing a great job of, as you say, you win Super Bowls through the draft and through developing talent. And that's what they've done. I mean, obviously, they've sprinkled in some guys like a Mekhi Becton this past year who ended up being a big-time player for them. But they don't need to go out here and make big-time splash moves in the free agency market because of the way they've constructed their team. They don't have to press the panic button. They've rationed well.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that this is by design. I don't think they go out and sign anyone. If they do sign someone, it's going to be someone who was cut from another place because I think this is their year that they know they need to get compensatory picks back, which is going to transition us into the fact that compensatory picks were just announced for this upcoming draft. But obviously, when you lose free agents this year, you get them. So 2025, you get them in 2026. But they know with the contracts that they've signed, with what they have coming up, they're going to need to load up on draft picks. They are going to need a lot of young talent to offset the fact that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter's going to get a big deal. Jalen Hurts' deal. All these guys are getting paid numbers that are very, very high. And they're going to want to keep them all around. And so they're going to have to kind of cut the fat in the mid-level guys. They're going to have to let the Josh Sweats of the world walk. They're going to have to let the Milton Williams walk. They're going to have to let some guys walk. And they had a bunch of guys hitting free agency this year that they're letting walk. And so they'll have amongst the most and the highest value compensatory picks in 2026 if they just let this free agency period pass. And that's why I think they made the trade for Kenyon Green. It was a low-stakes way of saying, give us a guy who, instead of signing Mekhi Becton or instead of going out and signing a guard to replace Mekhi Becton, we have this guy who could be, if he turns things around, could be the answer. Tyler Steen could be the answer too, but they basically, I think they knew this offseason would be one where they kind of had to stand pat because the roster's so good already. Yeah, you could make small additions to it, but I think they're in fine shape, even losing guys like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. I think they will be just fine next season. All right, compensatory picks, though. Just announced. Cowboys, Ravens, 49ers, Dolphins all come away with 4. They're the guys at the top of this. The teams with third rounders are Minnesota Vikings, who lost Kirk Cousins, Dolphins, who lost Robert Hunt, Giants, who lost Xavier McKinney, even though the Drew Lock signing nixed their 4th rounder that they would have got from Saquon Barkley. And then you had the 49ers getting one for losing Jamaica Ryans and Rand Carthon with that new rule about minority head coaches or GMs going elsewhere. You had the Rams getting one for Raheem Morris, and you had the Lions getting one for Aaron Glenn. So all of those come right away for them. And so those are your third rounders. But I do think compensatory picks, again, no surprise, the Ravens right at the top of that list. They're there every single year. They play the game as well as anyone. It is 4 free picks, if you do it correctly, that are basically wild cards for you that you don't get otherwise. So very, very well-run teams play this game.
It's amazing how all these teams are different. And, we scratch our heads at some of the moves by some teams, and then we've become so accustomed to seeing how well some of the other programs have done.
Yeah. I would highly recommend, if you're interested in learning more about compensatory picks, go to overthecap.com, compensatory picks. They have a page there, and it will show you the cancellation charts, which is awesome to see. So you can go see that, like, hey, the Jets lost Bryce Huff, but because they signed Tyrod Taylor, they don't get a 4th rounder in return. If they hadn't signed Tyrod Taylor, they wouldn't get a 4th rounder in return. The Ravens, on the other hand, lost a ton of guys. They lost Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, John Simpson, Geno Stone, Kevin Zeitler, Ronald Darby, Devin Duvernay, Gus Edwards. All would have netted them a pick. And they only signed Derrick Henry, the only one. So they get a bunch of picks back because of that. Definitely worth checking out if you're more interested in stuff like that. Next offseason, though, I already mentioned the Eagles. They're going to get 3 back. The Steelers are in line to get 4 back already with all the losses they've had in free agency. That's, again, if they don't net them by signing other guys. And the 49ers are scheduled to get 3 back, again, if they don't sign other guys. So still early, still a number of moves to be made. We'll see how those play out, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Last bit of news. Chiefs restructured Pat Mahomes and Chris Jones, clearing $50 million cap space in 2025. What do we think they're trying to do here, Kyle?
I think they're trying to find a way to scramble and get their feet back under them. I mean, obviously, when you've got a guy like Chris Jones, when you've got a guy like Patrick Mahomes, their contracts are astronomical. And we've seen guys in the past try to move things around, not necessarily to get less money, but to move the money out a little bit, to make some room for some big signings. I'm not quite sure what they have incoming, but obviously with the pieces that have gone out the door in Kansas City, they're going to need to do a good job putting some Band-Aids in there and getting this thing right. I'm not quite sure as it pertains to the exact dollars and cents when they will be arriving for Pat and Chris, but at the end of the day, somebody else is going to have freed up money because of this.
Yes, and I'll just say as a disclaimer, when you clear cap space like this, so basically turn salary into bonus, and you clear that cap space, it doesn't necessarily impact future years unless you use that cap space. So with the cap rollover, every single year, your unused cap space rolls over into the next year. So if you clear 50 this year, but then have 50 more on the books over the next few years, again, it does not, because of the rollover, there's no impact. But if you sign guys, if you use that $50 million cap space, well, then you're not rolling over any. So then you have big cap charges next year. So that's why when, the Browns last year, like mid-season, rolled over some of, or turned some of Deshaun Watson's salary into bonus, cleared some cap space on the books this year for next year, but then they didn't actually end up using it. They didn't end up going out and signing anyone. And so it doesn't actually impact them from a cap perspective. That could be the case for the Chiefs. It could just be basically housekeeping, knowing that Chris Jones, Pat Mahomes, they're literally not going anywhere. We don't need to worry about ever cutting them, just getting the space if they want it, if they want to play for it. But it does put, if they do start signing some guys and do start pushing chips to the edge, does put some strain in the future years. It could be like a play for a window that they know is open right now, that they know is basically the end of Chris Jones' career, probably a couple more years of high-level play out of him, the end of Travis Kelce's career, the end of some of these guys' careers on that team, that could be just a one last hurrah for this Chiefs team before they kind of have to, I don't want to say blow things up, but they're going to have to draft better and really start a different strategy because they've kind of gone all in on this core that is getting up there. It's just getting up there. So, all right. That's our show.
I'll see you Monday. We're going to be talking about all things offensive line scouting, correct?
We are. So we have
guys
on the Draft Lab show that if you haven't checked it out, be sure to go check it out. It's Mondays, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports Network. We're going to be breaking down this offensive line class, the tackles, the interior offensive line, all on Monday's show. Can't wait for you guys to check it out. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.